Senator, you don't get to control what questions I ask or don't ask. And quite frankly, I think what you're doing is abusive. And I'm going to call you out on it. Okay?
Oh, I'm going to call you out many times too.
Well, that's fine. And Mr. Chairman, I have to say in conclusion, you may not like my questions, but I'm going to keep asking them. I made a commitment to the people of my state. I'm going to come right here. I'm going to be a bulldog. I'm going to ask the questions, and you can interrupt me as much as you want, cut me off, take my time away, but I promise you I'm not going to stop. Mr. Boudreau, let me start with you. Are you aware that there is currently a strike going on nationwide by auto workers in this country?
I'm aware of the auto workers strike. Yeah.
So I just returned from my home state of Missouri. We're in Wentzville, Missouri. That's right outside St. Louis. About 4,000 workers are striking. I was on the picket line with them on Monday, talking to them about their concerns, what it is they hope for their future. I talked to folks who were as young as 20 and had been there for a couple of months, and folks who had been there for 40 years and were nearing retirement. And one thing I heard consistently is they're worried about the future of their jobs. You know, the younger workers, is there going to be auto working jobs in this country after this administration finishes forcing the auto industry into an electric vehicle production that is made predominantly overseas? I'm sure you know where most electric vehicles are made in the world.
It is an enormous priority for the administration. Part of the reason why the president himself joined auto workers in the strike to
where are 54% of electric vehicles made globally?
The entire point of
where are 54% of electric vehicles made globally?
The whole point is...
No, I'm asking you a question. Where are 54% of electric vehicles made globally? You don't know?
I don't know about that number. I know that
the answer is China. Where is the critical? Wait, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Where is 73% of cobalt refining? Where does it take place globally?
Overseas.
Where specifically?
Probably China.
Yeah, China. Where is most cobalt mining performed? Who owns most of the cobalt mines in the world?
Probably most of that sourcing is in Africa.
China has the majority. 77% of electric vehicle cathodes are made in China. 92% of anodes are made in China. 66% of battery cells are assembled in China. The New York Times recently did a report on this. The New York Times, not a notably right-wing publication, that said, can the world make an electric car battery without China? Their conclusion, the only winner so far is China. My question is, why would we want to make our auto industry dependent on supply chains in China? Why is that a good idea?
We don't.
Then why are you doing it?
The entire point of this conversation, the entire point of this hearing is to domesticate and make more reliable the sourcing of the materials to support.
Then why are you shutting down critical mining in the United States?
We're not.
You are. Why did you close the Twin Metals mine in this country earlier this year? 225,000 acres in Minnesota, which mines critical minerals like copper, nickel, cobalt.
Again, the entire point of this conversation is to do mining in a responsible way that also reconciles with...
In a responsible way? First of all, answer my question. Why did you close the Twin Metals mine?
Because of the threat to the boundary waters, which is one of the largest economic drivers in Minnesota.
So you think that we shouldn't have critical supply chains in the United States, jobs, good-paying jobs with labor protections in the United States?
Not at the expense of one of the richest fisheries in the United States and the world, such as in Alaska and the Pebble Mine. Not at the
Twin Metals mine isn't in Alaska. It's in Minnesota. It's 225,000 acres in Minnesota.
Correct. And my point is, as we look to accelerate the development of domestic critical mineral mining, we have to do it in a way that does not conflict with and deplete other important aspects of the economy. In northern Minnesota, that includes the recreation economy and the boundary waters, which is one of the main drivers of tourism.
So you're going to prioritize recreation over good-paying jobs here in this country for mining? You're going to withdraw this mine that has been online and now shutter it?
The number of jobs generated by the boundary waters and tourism dramatically outpaces the potential of that mine.
I thought it was critical that we had supply chains in this country, and yet you're shutting down critical mineral production in this country. Do you know instead what that's making us reliant on? Do you know what China's labor practices are? For instance, at their cobalt mine in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Have you seen the reporting on this?
You'll get no argument for me that domestic sourcing.
They use child labor is the answer to my question. Child labor in harrowing conditions.
And also religious
China
minorities.
uses Uyghur labor, slave labor.
Yes, they do.
And yet, you are making us dependent on imports from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, controlled by China, from Chinese-controlled and owned mines all across the world. You're shutting down our mines here in the United States.
Well, we disagree about all of that.
Would you support, well, facts are facts, and sometimes they're tough. But what's going to be really tough is when we don't have any auto jobs left in this country because you've shipped them all overseas, when we can't mine anything in this country because you're shutting it all down. And we all know why. It's in pursuit of your radical environmentalist agenda. That's the real answer
Senator,
here.
your time is up. Let me just say this, Senator, that first of all, the Twin Metals project has never operated. It's never been operational.
You know, Senator, with due respect, I've sat here and listened to my colleagues who went 2 and 3 minutes over. So I've been very patient. I think I'm the last person to question. Maybe it's Senator Lee.
Senator Lee's waiting for you.
Okay. Well,
You
I'd be
back on
happy
second round?
That'd be
Second
fine.
round?
I'll sit here. I'm happy to do it. I'm
We're
sure
not
you'll
here
give me
to-
some time.
We're not here to berate. We're basically here to try to get information how to do it. We've passed legislation, which I don't think you voted for. They give us more dependency as far as.
Senator, I'm here to ask questions and to get answers.
Well, you're here to, it's demagoguery. I mean, you're basically attacking every witness we have. You always have. I'm sorry, we just disagree, okay? And we're going to go with our second round. Let me just say this to Senator Hawley. I'm sorry if you believe I've been differential. But on that, I know our busy schedules you have and other different committees. Everything that you are saying, we feel the same, and it's been bipartisan on both sides. I'm going to go to Senator Murkowski first for her second round, then come right back to you.
That's fine, Mr. Chairman. I just say this, though. Don't characterize my questions as demagoguery when I'm trying to get answers.
Sir,
We've had people in front of here up at this committee.
We've been through this because everybody basically has asked the same questions you were on that.
Senator, you don't get to control what questions I ask or don't ask.
No,
and
no,
quite
I'm not. I'm
frankly,
just
I
saying
think
the
what
way
you're
we
doing
ask
is
it.
abusive.
We've been
and I'm going to
talking.
call you out on it. Okay?
Oh, I'm going to call you out many times too.
Well, that's fine.
There's not a problem, but I'm in chairman right now and you're out of order.
Mr. Boudreaux, let's come back to the question of the Congo that we were talking about. So if you are opposed to the child labor practices of China in the Congo, will you support the legislation introduced by some of our colleagues in the House that would prohibit all imports of cobalt mined using child or forced labor?
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that legislation.
Senator Boudreaux, if you could put your microphone so we could just put it over towards you, because I think, there you go, like that. Okay.
I'm not familiar with that legislation. I do agree with you that those types of practices are practices that we need to eliminate from our sourcing of critical minerals.
So you would support a prohibition, you would support a ban on imports in principle of any of these critical minerals that have been mined using child labor?
No, I support
not?
working hard to transition away from sources that use those types of practices.
Well, why not ban it? Why not say if it's got child labor in the supply chain, we're not going to import it in this country. We're not
that
going
would
to
have
prop up
massive
child. Wait, I'm not
implications
done
for the
yet.
economy.
We're not going to prop up child labor in this country or fund it.
I think an abrupt ban would, again, I haven't studied this issue. One of the questions I would ask in connection with a ban like that would be what the impacts, including economic disruption, of such a ban would be.
Well, the impact would make slave labor and child labor extremely expensive. It would make American labor a lot more attractive. That's what it would do. It would incentivize jobs with labor protections in this country. Shouldn't we want that?
Again, I haven't reviewed that legislation. I don't know what the impacts of it would be. I agree with you that getting reliable sourcing that does not associate with those types of practices should be the goal of the United States.
But you can't agree that we should ban it.
Again, I haven't studied the legislation. It's hard for me.
Well, then
to
what,
answer that
I guess,
question.
let me just ask you a broader question. What steps are you taking to decouple American mineral production from slave labor then?
Slave labor is completely illegal in the United States, has been since the 19th century. And so the domestic sourcing in the United States is preferable over activities like you're describing in the Congo.
But yeah, obviously. But we are reliant, as you and I talked about in our first round of questioning, we are heavily reliant on supply chains that is shot through with slave labor and child labor in China, in the Congo, elsewhere. So my question is, what are you doing to decouple us from those supply chains? You won't support a ban on child labor. So what do you propose then?
This was the purpose of the interagency working group that I chaired. This is the entire thrust of the report that we issued earlier this month, is how do we increase the reliable sourcing of these materials. I think Dr. Yergin makes an excellent point about refining as well, to decouple, again, our reliance on sources that involve practices that are abhorrent to us.
Well, all I can say is, I don't know why it makes any sense to be shutting down critical mineral supply chains in this country, shutting down mines in this country, mandating further reliance on China and other overseas supply chains that are dependent on slave labor and child labor, while workers in our country are facing the loss of their jobs. I think it's just crazy, to be honest with you. I think it's just crazy. And Mr. Chairman, I have to say in conclusion, you may not like my questions, but I'm going to keep asking them. I made a commitment to the people in my state. I'm going to come right here. I'm going to be a bulldog. I'm going to ask the questions, and you can interrupt me as much as you want, cut me off, take my time away, but I promise you I'm not going to stop.
I would never do. Let me just tell you one thing. I agree with what you're saying. I just don't like the way you say it. How's that?
That's your right, but you know what?
Have a different,
I'm going to keep on keeping on.
Here's the thing. We all agree. You know, if you'd have been able to be here, and I know because of other committee assignments, but we were going through all of these things. That was the only thing I got frustrated on. So with that being said, there's not a person here who doesn't understand. We are absolutely upset. This whole thing about the Congo, I've been speaking to people down there. It's horrible what's going on. They want to change. They're going to have our help. And I agree with you. We shouldn't accept any child labor. I'm on the bill, I think. But with all that being said, we've got to do more permitting here. We've got to do, because basically we're allowing the EV, our whole EV dependency now, moving in that market quicker than what we can ever supply. And my whole reason to basically fight this administration is because I do not want to become dependent on our, basically, our transportation mode on an unreliable supply chain. That's what will happen. I've waited for, I was old enough in '74, we talked about that, oil embargo. I had to wait in line to buy gas to go to work. I don't want to wait in line to buy a battery from China to go to work. So I agree, we're on the same path, I think. We just have a different way of approaching it, that's all. And that, I respect that.